Pawn structures that support knight outposts. Have you ever wondered how to create a strong position for your knight deep in your opponent's territory? Let's break down the key features of pawn structures that support knight outposts. A knight outpost is a square, typically on the 5th or 6th rank, where a knight can sit safely and effectively. This square is usually protected by one of your own pawns and cannot be attacked by enemy pawns. To ensure your knight outpost is secure, the opponent must not have pawns on the adjacent files. If they do, those pawns should be advanced beyond the outpost square. This setup prevents the knight from being challenged by enemy pawn advances. For example, if you place a knight on c5, it is best supported by a pawn on b for d4. This creates a solid and safe position for your knight. Another important aspect is the support from your own pawns. The outpost square should ideally be protected by one of your pawns. This protection makes it difficult for the opponent to capture your knight with their pieces. When pawns advance, they leave behind squares they no longer control. These weak squares can become excellent outposts for your knight. For instance, if your opponent pushes a pawn to b4, the square behind it, c5, may become weak and a prime candidate for a knight outpost. Sometimes, you might need to sacrifice or exchange pawns to create or open up outpost squares. By removing enemy pawns that control key squares, you can establish a knight in a strong position that is tough to dislodge. This strategy can be very effective in gaining an advantage. Creating outposts through pawn structure manipulation is a smart move. Plan pawn breaks or exchanges to weaken your opponent's control over certain squares. For example, pushing your pawns to challenge their pawn chain can create holes in their structure that serve as knight outposts. Once you have established a knight outpost, it can apply pressure on your opponent's position. A knight on an outpost can attack critical squares and restrict enemy piece mobility. Knights are particularly effective on outposts because their movement is flexible, allowing them to control complex positions. Finally, coordinate your other pieces, like rooks and bishops, to maximize the pressure on your opponent. The knight can act as a spearhead for tactical threats or positional dominance. In summary, pawn structures that support knight outposts are characterized by the absence or advanced position of enemy pawns on adjacent files, protection by your own pawns, and the creation of weak squares through pawn advances or exchanges. Strategic pawn sacrifices can be used to create these outposts, turning them into powerful tools for controlling the board and mounting effective attacks.